every story that deals with time in a sci-fi way needs to establish rules. Some can be figured out by what happens in the story, while others are clearly stated. With Tenet, the rules are absolute garbage, and they break down completely when you think about it too much. Welcome to Exasperated Nerd Explains. As a movie, Tenet is definitely entertaining and exciting, but it is also kind of a mess. Most of the Tenet videos popping up say they explain the ending, but don't go into how it works because it simply doesn't. And that's disregarding there being two armies fighting each other like the end of You Only Live Twice, when Inversion is such a big secret. Washington's character will later lead Tenet, and he is taking control of the organization at the end of the film. They succeed in recovering all the portions of the formula to stop time so they can hide them all again. Why the formula is hidden in weird metal pieces is beyond me. Robert Pattinson may in fact be the child of Kat, which is implied by him knowing the day of their last happy memory as a family, having what looks to be a coin from Vietnam as a memento from that last happy trip he had, and giving longing looks to his mother throughout the film. Okay, so back to the rules they establish and why they fall apart. What happens, happens. This is the big rule that they mention several times throughout the movie. You cannot change what happened by going inverted and flowing backwards through time. So, based on what we've seen at the end of the movie, Robert Pattinson is going to die because we have seen him die from Washington's perspective. First off, from an eagle's eye view, this means there is no free will. Events within time are all set in stone because they have already been observed, at least for the time period of the movie. So at the end of the movie, when Washington lets Pattinson go off to die, he literally cannot stop him because he has seen it happen and it is not a choice he can make. Kind of. In reality, as long as it appeared the same, you could technically change it. Let's say you give Pattinson a special helmet that's bulletproof with a built-in blood pack to explode on impact. It would still look the same to Washington's character, but you would have changed it, except that it also would have always happened that way. Earlier in the movie, the explanation of not knowing whether the villain succeeded in stopping the flow of time in the past is chalked up to the presence of a multiverse. But if time is set in stone and whatever happens, happens, there are no actual choices being made leading to divergent realities, so there cannot be a multiverse. There is a more practical way to look at this problem, and that is the observer effect, which is a theory in physics that the observation of a phenomenon changes that phenomenon. By being present and observing events while inverted, you are cementing them into place. At the end of the movie, a blue team is inverted and fighting at the same time a red team and normal time is fighting. At the red team briefing, we are told that the blue team's experience influenced the briefing, since they have seen what happens. They are making a battle plan with information gleaned from the battle when they were already a part of it, and have already done the things they are going to do in the plan. So they make a plan based on the plan they've already executed. So where does this plan actually originate? It can't have an origin, it just pops into existence. On a more simple level, in regards to how these inverted interactions break down from any logical sense, let's say a member of Blue Team comes back and says, "Yeah, you know Dave on Red Team? He betrays us and kills like everyone." Red Team members would have to just say,
"Okay,"
and let Dave betray them and kill everyone. In reality, that's not how anyone would react. They would have stopped Dave immediately. So by that predictable reaction to an event, this simply could not happen, as they would learn of the betrayal. So in effect, by observing time while inverted, you can literally prevent certain possibilities from happening. Now let's get into the weirdest rule or detail with this setup. Fire creates ice when you are inverted. I'm sorry, what? I feel like this is a concept they thought of at the very beginning and they thought was just too cool not to include, and it made it all the way to the final draft. By being inverted, the physics aren't actually different, they are just reversed to your perception. You just experience things differently. You see things happen, but they look like they are in reverse. If this actually happened, you would still see and feel the ice if time is flowing normally. It wouldn't just be invisible. This is the only thing that has this effect. And they just leave it at the one scene and explanation. If only some other object involved fire. Like maybe a handheld one that uses it, perhaps as a propellant. Oh yes, guns. Tiny fireballs used to propel bullets. If they took this concept to other areas of the movie, guns should be cold when you are using them inverted. Maybe even cold enough to frost over and jam. That would make the fighting more interesting, giving a distinct disadvantage to being inverted. And likewise, the battlefield at the film's climax is filled with explosions by inverted people. This should have created bursts of spontaneous snowfall, but alas, they just leave it at the one fire earlier in the film and never address it again. How about another nonsense rule? In the film, while Washington is inverted and headed back to Oslo, his shoulder starts hurting, then starts bleeding, the result of an injury in the fight with himself. But how? While you are inverted, your personal time flows forward. You still age. Or the villain will have spent a day backwards and forwards endlessly, never dying or being threatened by cancer. However, this scene means an injury received from someone in the normal flow of time appears on your body backwards to your inverted perception. So what if he had received a grave bodily injury? What if earlier he had basically cut his own leg off? Would his leg have spontaneously fallen off on the way back to Oslo? He would have to have dragged his bleeding, flopping leg around back into the fight where it would reattach itself. The alternative, of course, would be that he would appear to be bleeding in the normal flow of time when he shows up, and the stabbing would appear to heal him. And what if he was killed? How's that work? Well, thankfully, that happens in the movie, so we can see exactly that. Which brings us to the corpse in the room and back to the film's finale. When Washington arrives in the bunker where the bad guys are trying to leave the formula to freeze the flow of time in their era, there's a corpse on the floor in front of the door. That corpse is Robert Pattinson. He is inverted. So, his corpse is inverted. We know this because moments later, he, to our perception in the flow of normal time, springs to life having blocked the bullet meant for Washington with his head. It makes for an exciting moment and some momentary confusion, but this creates a massive problem. This means his body has always been there. If someone had moved his body at some point in the past, which would be typical for a body, it would not be in the right place for him to spontaneously resurrect and be a human shield. Therefore, this organization has operated in the area and in this facility, and no one has questioned why this body is there in front of the door. It could even go back years with Branagh's character having a history with this place. He would see a decomposed body slowly regenerate over time. It's not like he's in the corner either, he's right in front of the door. No one could ever bring up the question of why there's a body in a different style of military uniform just there, and it was never moved? Because what happened, happened. One more small gripe about the rules they established. They mention, don't run into your past self when you are inverted, or you will be annihilated. How did that never come back into play? You can't introduce that and not come back to it. That's Chekhov's gun. A double body annihilation is the thing I want to see. And that is why Time Cop is a better movie. Thanks for watching. What did you think of Tenet, and do you think it still makes sense somehow? Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Bye.